Hi guys, it's Otti again. I'm sitting here in Bochum at the RuhrCongress with Oscar from HAMMERFALL. Hi, Oscar.
Hello. How are you?
Fine, and you?
Yeah, not too bad.
It's a pleasure for me because you are one of the metal bands that brought me into metal in the 90s.
Oh, really?
So
cool.
This is a cool date for me, and so let's start with this. I was, I think, 15, 18 when I discovered you. Since then, or let's do it another round. People said in the 90s metal was dead. Did you experience it the same?
Oh, yes, very much. Maybe not metal was dead, but they sort of changed what metal meant. In my eyes, it was the metal of the 80s and early 90s, and then when they incorporated rap vocals into metal, I thought that's when it became something different than metal. That's not metal music anymore, in my view. So I didn't enjoy that very much at all.
It was this crossover thing. I
had a hard time with that.
Claw fingers. I liked it, but I liked hard metal as well as punk.
Yeah.
So now we have a better time for heavy metal as it was, and I think it's even developed during years.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, you are now one of the big bands, you can say. Back then you have started
so, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Playing at a venue like this, like RuhrCongress in Bochum. Did you imagine this when you started back then?
Absolutely not. No, not in any way. The thing was, like you talked about before, that people thought the metal was dead, and there was this type of heavy metal that we played, the melodic stuff, clean vocals, the 80s influenced stuff. That was dead, or people thought it was dead rather. It was dead to them probably more than anything else. But and it was really hard to find persons who wanted to play this music with me. It was really hard to find people that wanted to listen to it, or rather, I think that were not afraid to admit that they still liked it. I think that was a lot of the case was that. But I still only thought, like, when we got the record deal, we recorded the first album. It was still, you know, if this can lead to a few shows, maybe outside of Sweden, that would be great, because we've never been outside of Sweden with HAMMERFALL before. You know, and not aiming high at all, because there was nothing to aim at, we thought. But then we had Nuclear Blast, of course, German label. Did not know that Germany still had that big of a fan base for melodic heavy metal music. In Sweden, it was nobody. You know, people were laughing and saying, "What are you doing? Like playing this sort of music with this sort of like leather and studs and stuff and chains? Don't you know that this stuff died in the 80s?" That's what the attitude from everybody. So we thought that was everywhere, and then we realized that. Our very first live show ever outside of Sweden was at Wacken Open Air in '97. We played in front of, I think it was 15,000 people back then, because it's a long time ago. But it was, for us, it was a sea, an ocean of people. I heard so many people talk about that afterwards, that they were there, and then and everybody was singing along every lyric from the start to finish. It felt like from the stage. So we were blown away by that. We did not know that this was out there. We did not know or expect anything like this, because we kind of thought we were going to be playing for friends and family more than anything, and people who used to like this music once and aren't afraid to admit it anymore. That's, you know, like a few select. But it turns out that was only the beginning of something. So we played at on this tour, Die Zeche in Bochum. We played there a couple of times in the early days, I think. I think it was on the first tour we did with Tank and Raven. I think we were at Zeche.
I've been to Zeche shortly before. It's a cool venue, and they have at their walls all the names of bands that played there,
right.
Or many. I don't know if it's all, but many of those which grew really big.
Is it still around?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, cool. That's very cool.
And yeah, we have cool concerts there. Yeah. I've been there for the 69 Eyes.
Oh, yeah, you know,
did an interview with Hier there. That's cool as well. Yeah, and just one other thing about that time. What was the weirdest venue you played back then? The smallest, weirdest?
We had a fun show in Mora in Sweden. It's Joachim's birth town. So we went there to record the first two videos that we did for HAMMERFALL and Glory to the Brave, the first two ones that we did. And because we were there, or maybe we went there a couple of times, so I don't know if this, but we were there, and then they said, we have this little club in our city, or a nearby city, whatever it was. Do you want to play there? And we said, yeah, sure. We'll get a case of beer and just set up stuff and play. So, and this turned out to be like an old villa, like an old house, and this was in the living room on the downstairs. The stage was, maybe this big, and there was a big beam in the ceiling, and there wasn't a whole lot of people. This was like for their club, kind of like people. So maybe, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 people. I don't know, a very small thing. And Joachim, I don't know, he felt something coming, and so he jumped out into the audience again, this high, but he still jumped, forgetting about the beam. So yeah, so he hit his head pretty hard actually. He was like, oh man, gone for a little while. So that may have been the strangest venue that we played in.
Yeah, it's funny. Could you imagine to play such small concerts nowadays, or maybe something?
No, that's I think a little bit too much. Okay. We can do clubs, but draw the line in living rooms, I think.
I see. Now let's come to the present. We are on the United Forces tour with Helloween. We don't talk too much about the pandemic because I think we all have to stay a little bit positive, but a little bit about this, all the postponements. How did they annoy you?
Oh, that was hard. The tour was supposed to start in March last year, and it was booked for like end of March till beginning of May. And if the pandemic would have let up maybe a month earlier or a couple of weeks earlier, it might have been possible, I think. But because it was so close to the start of the tour, they didn't want to risk anything, so they moved everything. And so now we've done like 3 shows here, 2 shows there, a couple there. It's in a way kind of fun, but it's a lot of travel, a lot of unnecessary costs that we didn't need. So it's both good and bad. It's really cool to be out there. Again, it's also very fun to play with Helloween, of course. They were among the influences when we started this anyway in the beginning. So I still remember when we traveled to do the video shoot. Sorry, this would have been '97 then. Then we drove all of us in one car, just put the guitarist in the back and drove up there, and we listened to, because Stefan was driving, it was his car, and he had Time of the Oath with Helloween, that CD in the car, and we listened to that over and over again on the drive up. It's like, I don't know, 7-8 hours or whatever it takes to drive there, so it's a long drive. But yeah, so there were a few bands in the 90s that released albums that we were big fans of still, like Time of the Oath, Louder Than Hell with Manowar, for example. There were a couple of albums in that time, but there were very few that we could get into. But then it's extra cool that we're actually here with Helloween now.
Yes, it's like I have this Wayne's World feeling in mind where he goes to Alice Cooper, for example, and says, and now you are, I think, at the same league, you can say, at least.
Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, Joachim grew up, and so did I to a certain extent, but he was more into Helloween, early Helloween, like the Kai Hansen singing Helloween. And then, of course, from onwards. So for him, this is a real treat as well. And of course, I love that stuff too, but he's 2 years older than I am. And I didn't have any friends when I was younger to tell me what I was supposed to like. This, you can try this and try that. So everything I listened to was stuff I heard off the radio, maybe, or TV or whatever, maybe magazines. But it was nobody ever came to me and said, "Here you go. This, I think you like this," and then progressed into finding different artists. So because I didn't have a big brother who was a metal fan or anything like that, or any friends really that really liked metal the same way that I did. So. And I didn't even see Helloween in the 80s, unfortunately. I had a ticket. They were opening for Iron Maiden in '88, I think this was, in Gothenburg then, obviously. And for some, I cannot understand why I did it, but we had tickets to go see it, and we went down and sold them outside. They were sold out, so we just got rid of them and didn't see. I don't know why. I was never a really big Iron Maiden fan. I like the music very much, but for me was always Accept and Judas Priest, like and those were the big ones, you know. And Maiden always was, yeah, cool, great stuff, you know, great songs, but they were still lower on the rung. So if this would have been Priest or Accept, I would have never thought of selling the ticket. So I would have seen Halloween back then too.
See, it's like me. One time I had the chance to go to Motorhead, take some pictures even, and I said, "Oh no, I'm no time. It's too stressful." Yeah. And now I think would have done this. So
yeah, we all have regrets, right?
Yeah, sure.
If that's your only regret or your biggest regret, you're pretty pretty good.
I would say my biggest regret is that I started when I was 18 with smoking.
Oh yeah,
I could now a couple of years ago, but I don't know why I started at this age. If you start earlier for some peer pressure, but not at 18.
No, it's so dumb. It's ridiculous, and especially smoking it feels absolutely no purpose. It has no purpose for even existing, other than that somebody thought this looks cool. That's the only reason it exists. And if that's the worst, I've always hated smoking more than anything else. Well, not more than, but a lot. It is really passionate, because my dad used to smoke a lot, and he was not very considerate in smoking. So there were a bunch of arguments and stuff, you know. So I have some really bad experiences with smoking. And so now I'm happy that this is going in the direction of stop smokers that can't smoke here, can't smoke there, can't smoke indoors. I'm really happy about that.
But now you have this fume stuff, and you even have this one-shot fume with plastic. It's not even better, I think.
The vape thing? Yeah. No, but at least that doesn't bother anybody else. If you want to destroy your body, okay, but don't do it to everybody else as well, right?
This is what I really regret. Everything else is what led me to be here.
I can understand that.
With Halloween now on the tour, did you have some funny experiences with them, especially? I hate these questions because I'm so bad at remembering. And then, night probably, I should have said this, But no, we had some fun times, of course. We went through, the South American tour was interesting, because then we were flying, we were more at the airports and hotels than we were at the venues. There was so much traveling going on. And then if we're all sitting there waiting for the same flight, you get, it's a totally different vibe than here. But I can't remember any specific thing that actually happened. But yeah, we had, no, I don't know. Let me see. We talked a little bit. Maybe I can remember something. But you have to know how long you can do this, because I don't.
7 more minutes, and I have to start warming up.
So like this, I just don't want to hold you up.
No, it's fine. It's fine. That's why I'm started already. My warm up is Coca-Cola and playing guitar together with Frederick and Pontus, and we just jam a couple of songs. But I started already with a Coke because I was a little bit tired today.
So you don't drink beer on the show?
No, I mean, it has happened. I had half a beer before or whatever, but never. I always have Gatorade and water on stage. That's it. That's what I like.
Yeah, I think it's better to be professional.
Yes, absolutely.
Let's come to next week. I think starts the USA part of the tour.
Yes,
right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's, as well, you both Halloween and HAMMERFALL. I've experienced, and this is something really funny, I've never thought about this, but in the USA, many theaters and concert halls seem to be seated. Have you experienced
There are a few, yes, yeah.
So, can you how is it to play in front of a crowd that is seated?
Well, it's normally like a seated balcony. It's always a floor.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there have been cases like that, like what you mentioned as well, but I don't think there's more like a floor where people are standing and then seated rows on the balcony and maybe at the sides sometimes as well. But it's really weird. Yeah, it's a very weird sensation. Just because it was the 70s when they stopped doing this, and it's like 50 years ago. It feels weird, but I guess people. What happens sometimes is people stand up anyway if they're getting into it. So and that helps because then you don't see the seats. It's weird enough having to look down like that on the seating piece, but it's fine. It hasn't happened that much actually. So we'll see. I don't know the venues on this tour really. Some of them we've been to before, but other ones are new to us. So we'll see.
So you are looking forward to this tour, I think.
Very much, very much.
Somehow special for most of the European bands.
Yeah, I mean, for us it's extra special because the last time we were there was in 2019, like the autumn, October, November, and we had another tour planned for the next fall of 2020, like September, October, maybe it was, I think it was, and of course that was had to be cancelled because of the COVID thing. Or the pandemic. So this is our first time back in 4 years, and that was the biggest thing we had to cancel because of COVID was this tour. So it's extra special for us to come back and do this now, and of course together with Halloween too. That's even more special.
So, but you don't have support on the tour, I've seen, right?
No, I don't think so. I don't know actually. I don't think so. Okay. No.
Yeah, I think it's a good package. You both. Yeah. Most people like it. I mean, yes, if you are into either of the bands, you're absolutely going to like the other band. Sure. Like that. That's the idea, I think, and that's the brilliance between this package. Because for us, we get to show our stuff to a lot of people who may have heard of HAMMERFALL, but they might not know it so well. And now we get to show who we are to the people who are fans of Halloween. Could easily be fans of HAMMERFALL. That's kind of the idea. And for Halloween, of course, they get a good special guest kind of thing. But the funny thing about this, I met a guy in the bus, or before, while waiting for the bus, and told him I'm going for HAMMERFALL and Halloween, and he knew HAMMERFALL, not Halloween.
Really? Yeah. That's like, unusual. Yeah.
I thought you are both not the smallest bands, but Halloween is one of the biggest metal bands.
Absolutely, they've been around for 40 years or whatever. Yeah. Plus now with the reunion with Kai and Michael, so it's even bigger now than it ever was, I think.
Yeah, I had the album and it was really cool to hear them all.
Yeah, it's really nice. That's the cool thing about this tour. So we've been watching a lot of the shows from. Sometimes we walk out into on the balcony if that's closed or what. There's always somewhere you can watch it usually, and it's really fun to see the different personalities in the band because they are very different individuals. But also just to hear the songs, and it's so nice to hear like Eagle Fly Free, for example, with the guy who actually sung it on the album. I love Andy Darius's voice. I think it's great, but just to hear that song or the other songs with the Kiske is fantastic. But then of course the things they do together is really cool. That when they do duets and stuff, I think they have a really great concept with this now. That works really well.
But I think it's really difficult to go out into the crowd as a normal guy.
No, we'll never do that, of course not. Especially not in Germany, that would be hard. But we try to find some place where you can watch it from, because if you're on stage you can't hear anything. It's always, all the sound goes out, but if you can, there was one in Luxembourg, I think it was, where the balcony was closed off, so we could just go out there and sit and watch the show. That was really, really cool to see it.
So let's do two questions. One, we have to talk about the album, the last album, Hammer of Dawn. I think you have talked a lot about it last year, so we don't have, that was not my topic. But with a view back, what do you now think about the album? Is it still as you had it 1 year before?
Yeah, the thing is, it feels, we released it a little over a year ago, but we recorded it a lot earlier than that. So it was ready for a while before we actually released it. So it feels old to me now in a way that a one-year-old album shouldn't feel. But it doesn't feel old bad. It feels old, rather feels like a long time ago that we did it. So we're ready to start recording a new album. Maybe not soon, but eventually it's going to happen. So I'm looking forward to that as well. But I do think this album is really good. I'm really happy with everything. It was such a relaxed atmosphere when we recorded it. The feeling in the studio was just tremendous. So I think it helped for us to peak our performances on the album, which is kind of what I think. That's the most important part right now, like writing the songs and everything, yes, of course, but making those songs come alive in the studio that's where we'll put our focus.
Okay. And the final question is just something open. What, besides your music, besides having a cool tour so far and with the USA, what are you looking forward to this year now?
Yes, well, the North American tour actually is something that has been like, that's a big thing for this year for us, because what I said earlier, that we had to cancel the other one, and it's been a while now since we were there. But apart from that, we have many festivals. We're going to do some stuff in Sweden in the summer. Wacken open air, of course. You know, that's always fun to come back to play there. We have Summer Breeze coming up as well, which is another cool festival to play at. And then I think maybe if I think about it more now, the show I'm most looking forward to is the show in Gothenburg, in our hometown in Göteborg, because that one was postponed again from April. It was going to happen last weekend. Yeah, April 28th, and they postponed it until September now. So that's the last thing we do also. Göteborg and Oslo that weekend, and then we're done with touring for this year. So yeah, I think that's what I'm looking forward to the most. On home turf, so to speak, finally back.
And I wish you the best for this, and
Thank
for
you
all
very
the
much.
other shows for sure. So
Thank you.
It was a really nice talk.
Yeah, cool.
Cool that it could happen. So yeah, let's say bye, people.
Bye guys. Thanks
See
for
you
watching.
next time.
Cheers.
Cheers. Yeah.